Okay, so what is true about dogs? Things that are true about dogs. Dogs are territorial, right? Meaning they have a certain territory, they are very possessive of that territory, and that territory belongs to them. Is that true of human beings? Are human beings territorial? Certainly. If you've lived in any period of time, human beings are territorial. In fact, this is one of the best things to understand when you're going into a new job field or a new workplace, because somebody owns that mug, and that stapler is somebody else's. Sometimes they'll mark them with signs, sometimes not. Or there'll occasionally be things that are on your job responsibility that someone else has been doing, and that's their job, and you don't want to take it. We're unbelievably territorial. And this is a really interesting concept when you look at how it interferes with people and how you can interact with them. It's very, very important if you want to do well in the job field to be very aware of territory and very sensitive to these territory markers are not always apparent. Let's talk about dog eat dog. Are human beings dog eat dog? Most of us would agree that they are, in fact, dog eat dog. It's sort of like the whole thing of you can beat up your brother, you can say anything to your brother, you can do anything to him, but if somebody else picks on your brother, that's it. It's over. You're after him. We tend to be, you either are pack, so we have pack, or you're not pack. There's not in between, pack or not pack. So when I talk about my dog pack at home, my dogs are great. They don't attack other dogs. They're very kind. They're very nice. They're very, very well-mannered dogs. But they're a pack. So if for whatever reason a dog magically appeared in the middle of my living room while I was gone, what would my wonderful dogs do? Likely, they'd attack and possibly kill that dog because they're not pack, right? You either are pack or you're not pack. And you see this often in groups of people. So imagine that a whole group of vet techs are sitting at the commons, and I went down and just approached the table and started talking. Would that be cool? Probably not, even if I've had all of those in a class before. It'd probably not be cool. In fact, what I would have to do is find the leader of that particular pack, and that leader would give me some type of permission or acceptance to the group that says that, okay, you can talk to us. Understanding pack is very important because you're not necessarily a part of a pack, and understanding how to work with those dynamics. And the thing about packs is you have an alpha. This is also true in every group of dogs in the world. There is an alpha. There is a leader. You look at any group of human beings, there is a leader. Now that leader might change depending on the situation. I might be the leader of my class, but to not necessarily be the leader of a group down in the commons. So there's always an alpha. This is also incredibly important to look at in terms of going into the workplace. Understanding who the alpha is. We assume that the alpha is the boss. Oftentimes, it's not the boss. I found that just as often it's the administrative assistant or the front desk person that's the alpha. So you want to find out who is that alpha dog, who is that top dog, and understand how that pack is structured, because packs are structures. And there are rules to that structure. One of the most interesting things that you'll find in relationships is that with men in particular, in general, you never bring another man into a man's house without their permission. So women are often dismayed because suppose they're going to have a study group over at their house, and they share a house with their husband. The study group's all females, no problem. Not a problem at all. If he comes home and finds that there's another male student, even if it's in a whole group of females, generally you're going to have a problem. And a lot of times women will take this all personal. It'll be like, you know, what, you don't trust me? And he'll go, no, I don't trust him. And it doesn't even make any sense. The guy could be gay as the day is long, and it doesn't matter. It's a guy in our house. I know what they're thinking. Well, really what it is this is my house. It's a very alpha dog response to that particular situation. You know, I am in charge of my house. And it's very threatening when you challenge that. And, you know, it's easy to take it personally and be like, you don't trust me. It's really not about that. It's really about territory. Likewise, there are alpha females. And alpha females behave really interesting. They do much the same thing. But when you go back to dog eat dog, here's an interesting phenomenon that occurs only with females. So if you have a guy and a girl and the guy cheats on her, who is the woman often mad at? She's a lot less likely to be mad at him. Now, he made the promise. He's the one who owes her something. He's the one who did wrong. The other woman really owes you nothing. right? Why would you be mad at her? Why does she even factor into this? What's really fascinating about this is often she'll be mad at her. So after her. And that makes no sense because that woman owes you nothing. Well, that's also about territory. That's also about, this is my man. This is my pack. And you came into that environment. It explains a lot about how to interact. One thing I tell women is, okay, always understand this because it will save you some hassle. Because you can't explain it. You can't explain why you're behaving that way. You also see this in groups of women. They're incredibly aggressive. I mean, somebody will walk by and they'll be like, look at her. She's a blah, 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 blah. And they'll be like, what? All these things it will say about you. You don't even know her. You know nothing about her. Zero. That person walked by innocently minding their own business, and all of a sudden they got attacked in the context of that group. That's all about pack dynamics. And if you learn to navigate pack dynamics, you'll do a lot better. I know that I have, especially early on in my career, not done well with this. And you go in and you challenge the wrong person in a new situation, you're going to find yourself having a problem that is otherwise completely unavoidable. So they travel in packs. They're very territorial. It's dog eat dog. They hunt together. This is also true. If a student is really upset at me, often what they'll do, they'll send me an email that says, everybody else thinks this. They'll like try to get a pack going because the idea is that we'll be more successful in hunting in packs. And so you get then people that will gang up on each other. So all of these sort of pack-like behaviors, in essence, drive our social behavior. This can benefit you immensely because you understand where somebody's coming from in terms of pack relationships. It will really help you. If you have a beta or somebody who's not used to having authority in a group of people, it's going to be very difficult for them to go into a group of people and establish leadership. And understanding leadership is really important, but also dominance. So one of the things as a teacher is people assume that the teacher is the alpha. And that's not necessarily true. You can be in a position of authority and definitely not be the alpha. And I'm sure that most of you have had experiences in school where teacher wasn't the alpha. And how does that go when the teacher's not the alpha? It doesn't usually go well. Usually that the room is in chaos, things don't get done, and you have a very disorganized environment. Often students find this very frustrating. It's unbelievably important that the teacher is the alpha. So often the first week of class will happen fairly frequently, a little less now that I'm getting older, but where I'd have a student challenge that. And first day, I think you're full of bullshit, or why do we have to do that, or I'm not doing that. And what that is an affront to challenge. And it's very dog-like. And I have to meet that challenge with the challenge. This is tough because I kind of feel like a dog. I feel like a dog peeing on my environment. And essentially that's what I'm doing, is I'm saying that I'm establishing alpha. If I don't establish that in that environment and I lose that class, it does not go well. And I've had classes like that where, for whatever reason, I didn't meet that challenge in the right way. And you will have constant battle or constant struggle. So you need a strong alpha. In your family, you need a strong alpha. One of the things that I disagree with Cesar Millan about, though, is how you become alpha. I think becoming alpha, yes, you have to assert a certain amount of dominance, but the idea is to use as little dominance as possible. The idea is to help people feel safe, and that's what leadership does, but allow that to evolve naturally. You want to be chosen in alpha, and that's something as a teacher, I always walk that line because technically I'm an authority, which doesn't make me a leader. So when you understand this, it's really interesting, like territory. Have you noticed that if you walk into a classroom, usually the spot that you'll sit the first day of class is the spot you'll sit all quarter. Even if you're in my room for 10 other classes, you'll sit in different seats, it doesn't matter. This is your seat. It's almost like you peed on it. You know, you peed on it, that's my seat, and you can't take it. And somebody comes in and sits in your seat, you have all sorts of ruffled feathers, and you glare at them, right, and try to do the whole dog thing. I mean, we're very, very much accustomed to these different things. And understanding the dynamics is really valuable in social groups.